Alright guys, this is Dave from MDF Fixings. I'm going to show you how to coat this base molding. This is 5¼ inch base molding. First thing you're going to do is take your piece, cut a 45-degree angle on that. You're going to need a coping saw. They're fairly cheap, you can pick them up fairly cheap. They cut on the back stroke. And you're going to want to clamp this down. This saw has a clamp that will help clamp the piece down. Just going to want to make sure that you're not going to be cutting into anything when you're cutting this out that gets in the way. You're always going to want to do a back cut, back angled cut. So we're pretty much just taking this saw and cutting a back angle on this part up here, which is the detail. This here you can cut on your miter saw. You can cut it with this too, and you're just going to cut a straight cut right to there. But the detail is the only part that's going to come onto your next piece of molding. So the easiest way to do is do it in angles and in several cuts. So first cut I'm going to cut up into here and then come on the other way. But you're still going to be angled like this, okay? If the sawdust builds up and you can't really see, just blow on it, okay? I think you're in the wrong angle right now, so I'm going to move you. You're going to want to just stay tight to this white line. Try not to cut into the white painted line. Some people will take pencils to make it darker to be more contrastive, but it's pretty contrastive as it is now. Like I said, just blow it if you feel that you can't see because of the sawdust. Take your time. No need to go fast. Once you do it more, it'll become quicker and easier to you. I'm a little tight to hitting the stuff underneath the table, so I'll pull that out a little bit. I try to have support as close as possible because this thing will jump up and down very easily when you're trying to cut. Let me see. Yeah, you're good. So back on the back angle again. Just go back up in there. Try to get up towards the top of that ridge of that profile. Why you're going to do that is because you're going to come down up this way. You're going to try to stay on this angle and not have to come around that curve as much. Makes it easier. Back it out. And then you're going to come up on this. The more pressure you push on trying to get your saw to go through faster, the more it's going to grab. So less pressure, you need to go a little lighter jabs at it, it'll be better. So you see I'm a little below that white line. If you have a file, you can file up very tight. Or if you just, this is MDF, just kind of use the blade and just use it as a file itself. You see that sawdust is dropping. It's getting closer. Now you're gonna wanna go this way with this. Like I said, take several cuts, take your time. Just bite away at it, bite away at it, you know, bite away at it. Just get that as neat as possible. You want this kind of crisp. You don't want to get into the paint. So I broke that little jab away there. Clean off so you can see where that blade is cutting into. Like I said, don't get into that paint. Try not to. The top little ribbon here, you're not going to worry about that. Once you caulk, it'll be covered up, so you don't have to come on an angle with that. It'll be so thin it's going to break anyways. So just go on the facing of your wood. Don't worry about that little top 1/16, 1/8 of an inch reveal. Okay? Be careful with that though. You don't want to break. It's going to be a little thin, so you're going to want to be kind of careful. The more teeth on your blade on this, the better, because it's going to not be so aggressive on trying to take a cut. See, I'm struggling right here. It doesn't want to get. Once you get started, it's easy. It's that first initial start. Pop that off. Like I said, just use your blade as kind of on this MDF. It's so easily, just use it as a file. You can have a file and it'll do the same thing too. You don't want to come up here to just get all that detail. So that's all nice and cut out for the detail. Now you're just going to take this and cut it straight down this. If you're going to use this, you're going to want to have a little slight back cut out away from your piece so it doesn't accidentally have a, you know, protrusion. So when you slap it up against the other piece of molding, it doesn't keep it away. You want this joint as tight as possible. Other than that, you can flip it upside down and use your chop saw, your miter saw, and just cut straight down this line. That's the best way to do it. But I will show you that if you don't have the money to have a miter saw, you can use this coping saw. Just stay on that white line. You see how I have the coping saw angled a little bit? This ain't gonna be a complete straight cut because you're doing this by hand, but it will be still pretty tight, and minimal caulking will need to be taken up that joint. So if there's any expansion and contraction because of the moisture in your house compared to what the moisture of this molding is, you won't have any issues. You're gonna want to if possible, leave this molding in the room where it's going to go up for at least a couple, 3 days to try to acclimate. I mean, it's MDF. It still moves. It contracts. It expands. You tend not to want to use MDF in a wet area, like a bathroom or outside 3-season room or something like that, because if water gets underneath the paint, it is going to pucker. And it is not a good thing. So. See, I'm a little away from that white line, which is fine. I'll show you. Once you start coming to where the end, you know it's going to break off. You're going to want to slow down because you're putting too much pressure on. You're going to rip off and tang this or break that off or create more damage that you don't want to do. slow down. It doesn't take that long. See that? So you see this wood here where it's not that tight against the white. Like I said, just use this as a file. You got it back cutted. So just kind of use this as a file. Use those teeth as a file. Take your time. This is everybody's intimidated by doing this, but it is a very simple thing to do. Everybody's, thinks it's a time saver by not doing it. But to get a nice tight joint and you don't have to worry about your molding, expanding, contracting so much, this is the way to go. Doing a 45-degree miter on inside corners is not a bad thing if your corners are pretty perfect, but if they're not perfect, they're not going to match up completely. I mean, you can take a gauge and measure your corner to see if you have to do a 42-degree angle, 43-degree angle, so your corners match up better. But this way is, you can be off and don't have to, fiddle frick around to get the damn thing to be perfect. Like I said, just take your time. The more you do them, the better you're gonna get. So that's all that's to it. So here's the joint that we just cut. I'll show you how tight it gets. See that? And it can be adjusted a little bit with minimal caulking, and it still will be tight. See how I'm bending it back and forth? So it shows that it stays over time, that it will stay tight. All right, thank you for watching.